from the News Channel 5 network. This is Urban Outlook.
Thank you and welcome to Urban Outlook. I'm April Eaton. Thanks so much for being with us today. You know, violence against women continues to skyrocket. In fact, 1 in 4 women experience domestic violence sometime in their life. But the YWCA here in Nashville is taking a different approach on trying to combat some of those numbers, and they're doing it through working with young men and boys. It's a program called Amend Together. And here to talk about that program and how it has really helped sort of curb those numbers and teach young men the importance of making sure they do things the right way when they're around women is Shan Foster. He is the Vice President of External Affairs and Amend Together YWCA. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
The program Amend Together has been around for a few years anyway, 6 years or so. Talk just a little bit about the mission and the focus and how this program came about.
Sure. So the YWCA is the largest provider of domestic violence services for the state of Tennessee and has been doing that work for a very long time. And 6 years ago, we started thinking about how do we swim upstream and stop this issue from happening in the first place? How do we eradicate this issue of violence against women and girls before the violence starts? And so as we interviewed experts from around the country in gender violence prevention, what we found out was that so many of our men were not a part of the solution. They were not coming to the table. And so we saw this as a tremendous opportunity to really engage men and boys to be a catalyst for change in the Nashville community. And so we created this program, Amend Together, and it is a violence prevention program that's dedicated to ending violence against women and girls by engaging men and boys to ultimately change the culture that supports that violence.
And we know, I want to make sure we set the playing field straight, right? But we know that not all instances of domestic violence are men against women. Sometimes men themselves are involved in violent situations. But the bulk of the cases that we hear about involve women, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. Statistically speaking, 1 out of every 7 boys have been sexually abused in their lifetime. And it's something that men don't talk about as openly. And it hasn't been safe for them to talk about those things. So it definitely happens to men and boys. But by and large, 90% of the violence that happens to women and men are perpetuated by men. But we believe that the men, the good men, those who do value and respect women and girls have an opportunity to be a part of this change, to be a part of holding other men and boys accountable and really being role models for the young men coming up in this new generation so that this violence doesn't ever happen in the first place.
Those young men certainly have some powerful conversations and you've been talking to them and sort of getting in their ear about what they should and shouldn't do. In fact, the YW has put together a video, I'm sure with your help, that kind of captures what these young men are learning. Let's take a peek at that.
Amend Together just kind of tells you what other people go through. Amend Together tells you what you can do to fix the situation.
I chose to be a part of the Amend Together program because when I actually went to a session and listened, I realized that this program is definitely something that I would benefit from and learn from in the future.
I joined Amend because I wanted to learn responsibilities, be mature, and learn how to be a man.
Hey guys, how you guys doing this afternoon? Good. Everybody doing good? Yes, we're doing good. Look, today we are going to talk about violence against women. And I want to know how you guys feel about violence towards girls and women.
Physically putting your hands on a woman should not be happening. It's really not right. Even if a woman hits you first, what the right thing to do is to walk away from it.
What's another type of abuse?
Verbal abuse.
Verbal abuse. What does verbal...
I saw there was like a conversation club. It was talked about women and just educated me about what they go through. They talked about how women were negatively portrayed. They talked about how women go through all sorts of stuff that I just wasn't educated on. I also learned a portion about becoming a better man because it changed my mindset on how I should treat a woman.
The way women is treated is extremely unacceptable in our society. Just how they're portrayed on social media, how they're portrayed in music, it undermines women, and I guess it would show how much people are afraid of them because of the potential that they have. That's the way that I see it. Women have so much potential, and they're smart, they're beautiful, they're excellent in every single way, and because people see that, a lot of times people either get jealous or they get envious, and they use that towards diminishing someone else.
Is there help out there for those who are abusive?
Yes.
Yes. Where can someone go if they're either being abused or they feel that they have abusive tendencies? Where can you get help?
Yeah, therapist.
Therapist?
I do feel like a men should be in all metro schools. School's all about learning, and when you have a group of boys, they should all be more educated on how to treat the other sex. If every man had a men together, I feel like it would change our generation.
Changing that generation, starting with those young men. And I noticed that their shirts challenge, cultivate, change. Talk a little bit about that motto.
Well, it's all about challenging sexist attitudes and behaviors that we're seeing on a regular basis, and really cultivating healthy manhood, healthy masculinity, talking about healthy relationships and what it truly means to value and respect women and girls so that we can ultimately change the future for women and girls, particularly in Nashville, as our goal is to make Nashville the safest city in the world for women and girls.
If I remember correctly, the program has a number of different tentacles, a number of different arms. So the school is one phase of it. When it first started, you had a one that was specific to coaches, so they could learn how to teach and talk to young athletes. And then, of course, there's another portion that I guess is when you kind of work with the women too. So talk just a little bit about how a Men Together really works.
Well, it's all about having an entry point for everyone, whether you're a coach, a business owner, you're a student in school, or you're extremely excited about faith community. Everyone needs a place to be able to jump in, and that's what we really thought about as we put this program together for a community model, a community approach to ending violence against women and girls. We wanted to make sure that every man had a place where they can plug in. Some are going to be better role models, some are going to use their experience and their skills, some are going to use their resources and their network, but everyone having a place to really plug in to say, I'm a part of this movement, I want to help to make sure that women and girls are not only safe, but also valued and respected. So we work with coaches, we work with youth in schools, we work with CEOs of companies and leadership staff for corporations. We work with professional coaches and with the Tennessee Titans and the Nashville Predators. We'll be working with the MLS team that is here in Nashville. We're working with the faith community as we are raising awareness for October Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So everyone truly has a place to plug in and really make a difference in this community and stand up for respect.
Shane, how do you get the conversation going with young men and boys? I mean, it's hard enough to get women who may be survivors of domestic violence to talk or to come to seek help. But how do you get the boys and men to admit and to talk and to share about what might be going on if they find themselves the abusers in that situation?
Well, I think for us it's about two words: authenticity and transparency. We all have the same struggles. We're all a part of a culture that never taught us what it looked like to be in a relationship and how to handle conflicts and, you know, how to be men who value and respect women. I grew up the same way that many of these young boys did, whether they're in sports or they come from affluent households or they're in schools that are progressive. I mean, I've really experienced all of those things, and there's so many role models who has. And so when you go to the table and share those experiences and talk about the things that we've seen, the things that we've experienced, and create a safe space for that conversation and dialogue, then it's easy for young people to open up and say, hey, this is something that I've experienced. Do you have any experience with that? Or can you give me some advice? How do I handle these situations? I want to be respectful, but nobody's taught me how. I want to be, you know, someone who is a catalyst for change, but no one's taught me how. We have a lot of adults who are very comfortable pointing fingers and telling kids, don't do this and don't don't do that. But very few are willing to have an authentic conversation and say, I've been there, I've done that. This is a way to do this better. This is a way that you can get your goals accomplished and still be respectful and still really get a lot of value out of your own relationships. That's the other thing that we're seeing when we have these conversations with young men. They feel disconnected from their parents. They feel disconnected from adults in the school system. They feel even disconnected from each other in their friendships. Many people nowadays, they think that someone liking a post on Instagram means that they're your friend or becoming a friend on social media.
Right.
Those are not real friendships, right? And so they're disconnected. So we're not able to get all that we're supposed to be able to get out of even the relationships that we have that exist. And then when you add being a man and masculinity on top of that, we're taught to pull back. We're taught not to express ourselves,
That's
not
right.
to communicate.
Not to cry,
and so
not to do anything.
all of those
Yeah.
things. And so what we do is create the safe space to really have these conversations and give them the tools and the skills necessary for them to maximize who they are. And when people maximize who they are and are given the tools and the safe space to talk, then abuse is no longer an option, because we're all about loving and caring for each other and lifting each other up so that we all can be better together.
Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk more about the program and especially how folks in this community can get involved and participate if they need to participate. We'll be right back after this.